This is a coffee table. It's a solid coffee table. You can all see more solid than the podium. Boy, this is as good a microphone as I've had. Anyway, thank you very much. So, it was a really good victory last night, but of course it just paves the way for a lot of very hard work up ahead. And being no stranger to the ways of state government, I'm fully aware of the challenges. Already this morning I've been in touch with the Republican leader of the Senate and with the Democratic leaders of the Assembly and the Senate. I put in calls to Republican leaders in the Assembly. Tomorrow I'm going to an officer funeral in San Diego, a police officer killed in the line of duty, and then I'm going to fly directly to Sacramento and get to work. I'll be meeting with legislators, people from the Department of Finance, and get to work on what is going to be a very difficult task. During the campaign, I said my principles were very clear. We had to make tough choices. We have to live within our means. We're going to move as much government and responsibility as we can to the local level, and no taxes unless the people make clear that that's what they want, and they express that in a vote, in an actual vote of the electorate. So going forward, I'd say it's daunting, but California's always come back from probably at least 7 recessions since World War II. So I approach the job with enthusiasm, with optimism, and with all the energy and creativity I can bring to bear on a very broken process. And as I said last night, I'm very hopeful that the breakdown that has gone on for so many years will now pave the way for a real breakthrough. I'll take any questions.
Governor, your former Chief of Staff, Gray Davis, said he expects you to have an election on taxes next spring, fairly early next year sometime. Do you anticipate having an election on taxes?
I don't anticipate anything the day after the election. What I do commit myself to is to working hard to find every item of either waste or low priority spending throughout state government. I'm going to do everything I can. I meant what I said. I said if you want frugality, I'm your man. And I expect to have some difficult discussions, but we will go forward and do the best I can. I am very aware of the deficit. I'm very aware of how long it's been around. It's defied the best efforts of several governors. All I can tell you is I didn't create this mess. I'm going to be straight and tell it like it is, and I'll do everything I can to make it work. But I note that the vote last night turned down a mere $18 tax by what looks like about 60%. So I would say the electorate is in no mood to add to their burdens.
Governor, talk to Meg Whitman, and if you did, what did she say?
Exactly.
Meg Whitman was very gracious. Actually, she called Ann's phone, which I picked up, and so I surprised her a little bit. But she congratulated me and said she wanted to offer whatever help she could provide to help fix California, and I certainly
Do you need any of that
help it. Well, we could use some of that help. There's a lot of money there, so I could take a little bit of it to plug the hole. But I think it is important that Republicans express support for making the state work. We see what's going on in Washington. We know what's happening in Sacramento. There was a time when Republicans and Democrats got together on the tough issues, and we have a pretty tough budget deficit, whether it's 10 billion or 15 billion or higher. It's very daunting, and I will make it my business to make very clear what it is state government's doing. I'm going to try to pare down as much as I possibly can, and I'm going to engage in a process that will be transparent, it'll be exhausting and exhaustive, and it'll be inclusive.
Who's working on the transition? Do you have a chief of staff in mind?
Well, first of all, I want to review the very nature of the so-called chief of staff role. That's a title that has only been developed in recent decades, and my vision would be for very responsible and experienced department heads and possibly agency secretaries, and perhaps create a little more humility in the governor's office instead of trying to micromanage everything. But I do have some people here from my Attorney General's office. Jim Humes is my chief deputy, knows government backwards and forwards, and he's already started to help me in the process.
Governor, do you have an idea where the
What?
money is going to come from?
For what?
Thoughts on where the money will come from to close the debts, to pay for what California needs?
Well, that's the real question. What does California need? What does California want? And what is California prepared to pay? And that's the real issue. And as a matter of fact, it's not a very unanimous perspective. The electorate was divided very much by party last night. And when we go to Sacramento, it'll be divided by party again. And the solutions going forward are very divided. There are those who want taxes, there are those who want only cuts, and then there's groups in the middle who will muddle around. And it'll be my job to try to sow some unity and clarity out of muddle and division. And that is my commitment.
What are you going to do to assure small business owners that this is going to be a good state for them to hire more people and stay in California?
Well, one thing I'm going to do is meet with small business people and hear what their concerns are. If there are, regulations or the tax structure, that's something I've indicated that I'd be willing and would be interested in reviewing. But my first task will be to just assess where we are today. Tomorrow I go to the Office of Funeral, and I'll be in Sacramento, and I'll meet with representatives of the independent business groups. But we know California is a high-cost state. Land, regulation, taxes, labor, it's all there. And they're one part. And certainly we know small business creates the jobs the fastest. And if there's any way I can find out how to get the banks to loosen up, whatever the state can do, I will certainly be open and willing to do that. Yes?
Voters got rid of the two-thirds requirement.
Yes.
In theory, you should make getting budget out on time easier. On the other hand, they made all these new restrictions on raising funds. So I'm just wondering, looking forward, you should have no excuse not to get a budget out on time, but how will you balance that?
The taxpayers gave, or the voters gave, and they also took away. So with the proposition to protect local government, that immediately creates almost a $2 billion cash management problem for the state and $1 billion less going forward, as I understand it. And then with the restriction on fees, that will also add a new restraint in the way state government operates. So on the one hand, the people said, by a majority, give us a budget. On the other hand, they said, don't pick my pocket. So this will take all the know-how that I said I had and all the luck of the Irish as I go forward.
Governor, precisely are you planning to do tomorrow?
Well, I'm going to meet with particulars. I'm going to meet with the Speaker. I'm going to meet with the Senate Pro Tem. And I'll meet with as many Republicans as I can round up. There'll be a caucus vote tomorrow, and the Republicans in the Assembly will have their leadership. And I will ask to meet with them if they're available, and then spend some time on the budget.
Governor,
Yeah.
the party is now on the governorship, Senate, almost like all the statewide
Yeah.
offices, you control both houses. You own it, Democrats own it. What's your message to them?
My message is, get ready for hard surfaces and benches as you sit in the kind of austere environment of a very carefully put together state government and budget.
Governor, you might have had more income had your neighbors down the street passed Prop 19. What's your opinion about it not passing? How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it had quite a vote. But the fact is, California has liberalized its marijuana laws. It's lightened the penalties. It's done that over a number of governors. And, this went further than people wanted to go. That's pretty clear. And people are afraid of just making such a wholesale change to people's behavior.
But should it be a revenue source eventually?
I don't know that. I mean, if all we can do, is to tax our vices, that's not a very inspiring way to organize society.